Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Bangkok. Now, I've been in Bangkok for about 3 weeks, which makes me an expert on all things Thailand and all things Bangkok. So that means I'm prepared to make a little video for you now. So what I want to do today is just take you on a little walk around a very typical, in my opinion, typical Bangkok neighborhood. It's hard to say what's a typical neighborhood because there's actually a wide variety of neighborhoods here in Bangkok. But I think it's quite typical. And in kind of like the vein of what I've been doing recently with urbanism kind of videos in China, that's what we're gonna do again today. We're gonna do a little very minor urban analysis of what this neighborhood is like, what's good about it, what's bad about it, what can be improved. And we'll just talk about it. I'll show you. Let's get into it. So the first thing you're going to notice about this neighborhood, here in this alleyways, these sois are very, very few sidewalks. This is not a good neighborhood, really, in terms of walkability. It is walkable in terms of, there's not a ton of traffic, there's not a ton of noise. It's quite okay in that regard, but it's not really a pleasant place to walk because the alleyways are quite small, and there really is no place for a pedestrian to actually walk. And it would be even worse if you are a person with disabilities, right? If you have a wheelchair or some sort of mobility issue, the road is not really that conducive for walking on. It's not great, not great. But there are still some good things about it, which hopefully we will spot as we go. Like here's a cyclist right here. These neighborhoods are actually quite nice for cycling. You see a lot of people on bikes around here. Compared to the main roads in Bangkok, which, you know, actually, I guess I should give you a little rundown of where I'm at. I'm in the Lat Pral and Ratanapisek kind of neighborhood, sois. And there's also another one called Wiwawadi, something like that. My Thai is very bad. You'll also see there's not a lot of like mixed use stuff. Like there's not a ton of shops around, but we will see some, which makes it okay. Hey, buddy. All right, so as we walk through here, a couple other things I want you to notice. And this is very much like the geographer in me, because I remember this all the time. I studied geography in college, and I always remember this guy, Flusty, right? He wrote about like building paranoia in urban spaces and public spaces. And so you can see that really, really well here in a neighborhood in Bangkok. So he talked about different types of spaces, space design, urban design. This would be like a crusty space, according to him. A crusty space is a place that's like very, very well defended with walls and spikes and things like that. These are places that very, very difficult to access. And again, he's talking about building paranoia in a public space and making people feel uncomfortable. So you walk around a place like this, and even though Bangkok's overwhelmingly safe, you know, you don't have a ton of crime here. You see things like this, all these spikes. Every house is like built like a fortress, and it kind of does make you feel a little bit paranoid, make you feel a little bit, what are they afraid of? What are they worried about? And so this is one of the really things that I personally dislike about Thailand and about Bangkok is how every space is so well defended. It's like we're preparing for battle. Everywhere you go, look, the gates, walls. Flusty also talked about other spaces like slippery spaces, which are spaces that are like accessible but actually hard to get to. And I think we might be able to find one up ahead. So this space here, if I look on Google Maps, it will tell me that there is a coffee roastery and cafe, has good reviews, and it'll tell me that it's back here past this MRT station and in this condo unit, maybe on the ground floor of this condo unit. Now, I have no idea if it's actually back there, because when I come here, which I'll show you as we get a little bit closer, but when I come here, all I see is the guard tower, the guard booth, people watching you. You don't feel welcome to enter into this condo unit. So this is Wisdom Avenue Ratala La Pra. So you have, you know, entrance here, you have guards, you have gates. You know, it is, I guess, theoretically accessible to the public. You have a sidewalk. But for me, I would rather just go to, I don't know, any other cafe than try to deal with that. So that's very much a slippery space, and that can't be good for their business, and that can't be good for anybody's feeling of welcome and comfort in a city. Should be much more open, should be much more accessible, in my opinion. But there are some good things about these kind of Bangkok neighborhoods. Like here you have a little miniature local neighborhood grocery store, convenience store. You have a lot of these. You have 7-Elevens and convenience stores everywhere, so people are not in like a food desert like in some urban environments. You still have plenty of food. You also get lots of markets. Again, we should see one up ahead. You'll have lots of markets with fresh food, vegetable, fruits, all that good stuff that you want, and it's all very walkable aside from the fact that it's not really sidewalks like I mentioned before. So when I say this is like a very typical Bangkok neighborhood, what I mean by that is it's essentially like a giant square, like a giant block. Inside the block is a lot of little smaller blocks, smaller roads, sois, alleyways, but it's essentially like flanking the outside of this neighborhood are very, very big major streets. And so we're gonna get up ahead, we're gonna get to one of those. And as we get closer and closer to the main streets, you're gonna find a lot more activity in terms of like commercial activity. We're gonna find more shops, more restaurants, more markets, all that good stuff. But from where we were, and like from where I live back there, there's really not much around. There are 7-Elevens. So you do have access to things like that, but it's like, the further deeper you go, the more it's just housing, less mixed use. But up here, like right here on the right, we've got a 7-Eleven. You got a laundromat, hair salon. You got a street level coffee shop. This looks like a pharmacy perhaps. I'm not quite sure. I can't read Thai yet. So now we got cafe, although it is closed. This guy selling fruits. Everything you need can be found inside these little neighborhoods. Here you go, you got fresh vegetables. Chain stores here, Cafe Amazon. And here's something you guys might not know about, unless you've been to Bangkok, is here are motorcycle taxis. And these are kind of like your last mile transit. You have a sign right there with all the prices of where to go. You can't read Thai, I can't read Thai, so I don't know, but at least you know you're not gonna get ripped off because they do have a price, like a fair table right there. So anyway, you can book come here anytime you want and book a motorcycle taxi. But so when I say like last mile transit, this is what they do for last mile. Like those guys will probably drive you to the metro station or to your office, somewhere not too far away, for a pretty affordable price. And if you talk about like last mile, like in China, for example, all share bikes now. It used to be a lot of motorcycle taxis, a lot of guys on e-bikes that would take you places they would wait like at the metro station. But now it's almost all, not entirely, but almost all share bikes where you just scan the QR code and you take yourself. And I know a lot of other cities around the world and countries around the world, they do something similar, maybe with those bird scooters or lime scooters or share bikes like in China. So here is another metro station. This is La Charapisek station. And what I want to show you is hopefully there will be the other alternative form of like last mile transit just over here, back inside the same neighborhood I was in before. I'm just on the other side. Usually over here they will have shared public taxis essentially. And we will see if they're here. Again, it's Sunday morning, so not too many people about. Oh, there's one over there. Perfect. Usually you can walk out of the subway station turn down this road, and you will find little trucks like this, and you can pay, let's say, I think 10 baht should be, and you can sit back here. It's like a shared car, so you can get like maybe 6 people in here, and they will drive around these neighborhoods that I was walking through with you before. And they only drive in these neighborhoods, and they only drive a fixed route. So they'll essentially drive on this kind of main street through the neighborhood. Here's one right here as well. So those make a loop through the neighborhood. So that's another last mile transit option here in Bangkok. Again, no shared bikes, no shared scooters, none of that sort of thing. Still got humans, still got cash. You're not paying with a QR code, you're not scanning a bike, none of that. So okay, now we're back on the main neighborhood. Out of the main neighborhood, back out onto the street. Here you can find, obviously, much wider streets, heavier traffic. It is Sunday morning, about 8 in the morning, so it's not too bad right now. We now have a sidewalk. So in terms of accessibility options for people, in terms of mobility, people with disabilities, much better here, although it's still not ideal. Like, this is not an ideal ramp for people to get up and down. We have this giant lip here over this storm drain. Great. It's not great. You're going to find a lot of places that aren't very smooth. They're bumpy. They're not super accessible. So maybe, I don't know, I don't have a disability in terms of mobility, but maybe those people would prefer to be in the alleyways where it's quieter, smoother, traffic is slower, and they can ride their wheelchair, use their wheelchair, maybe on the street as opposed to on a really bad sidewalk. And the cars on the street will definitely just go around them, so no big deal. And I bet you can see it's much louder out here as well. So one of the great things about inside the neighborhoods is how much quieter they actually are. Once you get out here, people drive fast, they drive loud, very few electric vehicles, very few electric bikes, if any. So you just get a lot of noise. It's a loud city, but very peaceful back there. Probably another reason why everybody builds walls. So right here across the street is kind of like a little shopping center. Maybe like you could call it like a mini mall or a strip mall. Inside there they have a grocery store, they have a hardware store, and they have a lot of restaurants. They have a little food court, some clothing shops. Essentially everything you need in the neighborhood. You don't need to go to a big mall farther away. You can just walk there. And speaking of walking there, of course we do have this sky bridge here over the road. Now again, in terms of accessibility, not the best. There's no elevator, no escalator, quite narrow stairs. But at least you don't get hit by a car when you cross the street. At this point, I do want to re-emphasize and be clear that I'm not complaining. I'm not saying Bangkok is bad. I'm not saying anything like that. I'm just kind of pointing out things as I see them. And you know, it's an old city. Maybe not the richest country in the world. And you know, it's not really my place to tell people how their city should be. I don't know. I'm just saying. I guess that about wraps it up for my little journey this morning around the neighborhood. And I want to just leave you with this. I guess the conclusion is it possible to live in Bangkok without personal mobility, without a car, without a bike, without a scooter, without a motorcycle? Is it possible? Is it convenient? And is it good? Now, is it possible? Yes, definitely possible. It's easy to walk to a lot of places. You can walk to the grocery store, no problem. As long as, you know, you're not disabled, it's okay, it's not bad. Walk to the grocery store, walk to the market, get vegetables, get fruits, get food, get whatever you need. You also have the ability to order delivery very easily online. All that stuff's very convenient. Now, is it good? My conclusion is that it definitely could be better. We're here still walking without sidewalks. You see a lot of places where it's very difficult if you have mobility issues to actually get to places. If you have a wheelchair, you're going to be riding essentially in the middle of the street. Or if you have, I don't know, crutches or something, again, you're going to be on the middle of the street because you have really, really difficult terrain here on the sides. Now, also, is it just comfortable for a normal person? You know, it's okay. You have, again, like defensive architecture, crusty spaces, slippery spaces. You have all these spaces that don't make you feel very welcome. They make you feel potentially paranoid, make you feel potentially like you're unwelcome. So I would argue, in terms of a walkable city, Bangkok is not really super high in terms of walkability for probably anybody with mobility issues and anybody with just concerns about like feeling safe, even though it's a very safe city. If you are affected at all by fences and gates, and like I'm basically like walking down like a canyon right here. It's like everything you look at, there's nothing here. It's just walls because it's so defensive. It's so hostile architecture. So not the most walkable place, not the most convenient place, but it's not terrible, and it's still better than most places, I would say, like in America, like much more walkable in the United States. And you can definitely survive without a car, without a bike, as long as you can get to public transit, whether it's the last mile public transit options like the shared taxis, or whether you can walk to the metro or the BTS SkyTrain. That's all no problem. So anyway, let me know what you think about this, and we'll see you in the next one as I become more and more of an expert on Bangkok. Take care. See you later.